Welcome back to the channel. We're back with our Final Fantasy Commander deck profile. Lightning Army of One. We already did the main version of this deck. You could check out that video down there in the playlist. But this one's a bit more of a budget-friendly version of the deck. It's a $30 commander currently, but we expect those prices to fall as the set comes out, as we are just currently in pre-release season. But the overall deck comes in at just under $150. Main focus of the deck is having Lightning Army of One deal damage to our opponent. This way you could then go to our opponent's creatures because its damage is doubled to that player until our next turn. So it's not just our creatures that are doubling our damage, which the main version of this deck was doubling, tripling, all that with all of our creatures. But those cards are expensive. So instead we have cards that'll give us double strike, cards that'll go to our opponent's stuff so that they could start dealing that damage to each other. That will be doubled. And, just things that'll encourage our opponents to start dealing that damage to each other. But that's the general overview of the deck. Let's get into the cards that are in here. For mana, we have Arcane Signet, Felwar Stone, Mind Stone, Soul Ring, Talisman Conviction, and Thought Vessel. We really like it when Lightning could attack the turn it comes out, so we do run Swiftfoot Boots. Lightning Greaves is up to $8, and we just didn't have room for it in this deck, but if you do have Lightning Greaves sitting around, I would definitely suggest putting those there in the deck. Agitator Ant. At the beginning of your end step, each player may put up to 2 +1/+1 counters on creatures they control. Goad each creature that has counters on it this way. We may as well goad their stuff. This way they could deal that damage to each other, making it more powerful so that they could keep on doing that as well. Alexios, Deimos, and Cosmos. It's a goaded creature that'll keep attacking our opponents for double that damage. Aurelia, the War Leader. Attacks for the first time each turn, untap all creatures you control. After this phase, there's an additional combat phase. So, Lightning Army of One, when it deals damage the first time, it'll double the damage until the end of next turn. But if we get an extra combat, and we get it to attack again, she gets to deal quadruple damage rather than just the double, because it doubles the double. So, when something's attacking our opponent goaded, say if it is like a 4/4, they're dealing 16 damage to each other, and that's just helping us out a whole bunch. Balefire Liege. Other red creatures get +1/+1, other white creatures get +1/+1. Whenever you cast a red spell, deal 3 damage to target player or planeswalker. So, we don't just double combat damage with this deck, we're going to be doubling some non-combat damage with this deck as well. Whenever you cast a white spell, you gain 3 life. We don't really care about that part. It's more so the dealing the damage to our opponents that we're going to really care about with this one. Bastion Protector. Commander creatures you control are +2/+2 and indestructible. We are 3/2 for 3, so we don't really care that much about being indestructible, because we could always cast it again. But it's always nice not to have to cast this again, especially because we like to attack a whole bunch with this creature, and we don't have that many haste enablers. We do have them in the more powerful version of the deck, so if you want some recommendations on that, make sure you check out the other video. Bayako Siwa, as long as you can... Sorry. As long as your turn, other historic creatures you control have double strike. It's really just Lightning that we want to give double strike to. This way, when it does the double strike, it'll give the quadruple damage if it could attack on both hits. And then, if we get it with Aurelia on the battlefield, that's 16 times as much damage. Sending a Blade of Historian, giving us that double strike again. Brash Taunter. Once again, we don't care about just dealing combat damage to our opponent, so they attack into us with one of their creatures that isn't goaded for once. We could Brash Taunter, redirect that damage to one of our opponents that we're quadrupling the damage on. Combat Celebrant, get that extra combat as well with this card. It does exert it, so you can only do it once every other turn. But, if we're going up to 16 times as much with the double strike and Aurelia War Leader, this will give us the extra double strike, so that'll give us 32, 64 times as much damage. We just deal 1 damage at that point, and we win the game. Fiendish Duo has first strike. Source you control will deal damage to an opponent, deals double damage instead. So up to 128 times as much damage. We love to see it. Geode Rager helps us to go to all of our opponent's stuff. This way they can start swinging on each other for 128 times as much damage. And, we didn't do it. They attacked each other. But really about this is, the other thing that's good with goading is that then our opponent doesn't have the creature to block with if they swung in with it. So we love to see it. Gisela, Blade of Gold Knight. Source you control, deal damage to an opponent. Permanent, it deals double that damage instead, so up to 256 times as much damage. And if a source you control would deal damage to you, it deals half that. So it encourages our opponents to attack each other instead of us. Genzo, Havoc, Razor. Go target creature another player controls. That's really the ability that we care about on this one. And exile a top card of the player's library. May cast that card. May spend mana if it's mana of any type, but we don't really care about that. We want to deal the damage to our opponents. Sorry, we want our opponents to deal damage to each other. Heartless Hetsugu deals damage equal to half of that player's life total rounded down. I mean, it's rounded down, but if they have an even number and we double it, that's really enough to deal enough damage to them to win the game. Well, or at least eliminate one person. But, we deal 256 times half their life rounded down. Catacomber Claw Familiar. This one is a $5 card, so if you want to decrease the budget, you can always remove cards like these. But I do really like this one in here just because it'll deal damage to all of our opponents. This way it could be dealing double damage to everyone. Don't have to worry about it just being one person. And the goading really helps out a whole bunch there. Keeper Decor, at the beginning of each opponent's end step, the player controls more creatures, get a 1/1 token. If that player has more lands, get a Plains. Yeah, we're going to need some mana. We're in Boros. Our creatures with first strike get double strike with Quende, Prince of Femaref. Yeah, like I said, we like to give Lightning that double strike in order to make sure that we keep on dealing that extra damage. Lure into the third path, a little bit of removal, a little bit of draw power. Helps, if we're having to team up with one person that we keep on goading so that they can deal that double damage to someone, let's give them a little bit of draw power while we're at it. Naheb the Eternal. At the beginning of each post-combat main phase, add red mana for each life an opponent lost this turn, which could be a lot at a certain point, especially since we're doubling and quadrupling. But also with that is we'll get that plenty of mana in order to cast plenty of our stuff, and we could potentially use it for non-combat spells that we could use to win the game at that post-combat, since we now have double damage for everything. Nelly, Borka, Impulsive Accuser. Goad all suspected creatures. Also gets our creatures menace in case we need it to get through, if that's something that we like on that, for that suspected creature. It doesn't necessarily have to be our opponent's creature. Whenever one or more creatures an opponent controls deal combat damage to one or more of your opponents, you and the controller of that creature draw a card. Like I said, let's help out our opponents a little bit, make it so they don't want to deal all the damage to us. Give all of our creatures all the keywords based on the keywords that other creatures have. It's normally going to be double strike. That's the main one that we're focusing on here. But also gives our other stuff first strike, so that's the thing, is that you don't want that on the battlefield just when you have Lightning Army of 1 with the first strike. I mean, it does get a tramp on lifelink as well, but you want it more so when you have the double strike and everything. This way you could deal double damage with that second strike since the first strike hits first. Port Razor for additional combat phase. So we're up to 256. This puts us at 512, and then double strike puts us up to 1,024 times as much damage. We're just dealing so much damage at this point. Life gain has nothing on us. Solemn Simulacrum, getting that land out of our deck. We're in Boros. We need some way to do it. Santra in general. At least 2 other creatures attack. Go up to 1 target creature player controls. That creature can't block this turn, allowing us to, get in that damage with lightning. And then Vengeful Ancestor. Whenever this creature attacks, go to creature's attacks. It deals 1 damage to its controller. So we could be dealing that double damage to our opponent that we go to the creature stuff while we're at it. And where were we? We're up to Battle Mastery. Give lightning double strike. That's the main focus of that card. Let's scroll on over to the second half of the deck, since we're going to be... Yep, there we go. Curse of Opulence. Enchanted give someone basically treasure tokens, gold tokens, the same thing, just doesn't have to be tapped. Makes it so our opponents are encouraged to attack each other, even if their stuff isn't goaded. Duelist Heritage. Give a lightning double strike. Flaming Fist. Give lightning double strike, making so that we can deal that 4 times as much damage and 1,024 damage at a certain point if we get all of our extra combat spells, all our damage doublers on the battlefield, all at the same time. Grim Reaper's Spirit. Drew less if a creature died this turn, enters the battlefield, untap each creature you control. There's an additional combat phase after this one, so we're up to 1,024. This puts us up to 2,048, which will put us up to 4,096 times as much damage. Just saying, we have a lot of damage to be dealing to our opponent. If a creature attacking would cause an ability to happen, it happens an additional time. We have some abilities that'll happen like that. Not really that many in this deck, just because like those cards are a bit more expensive. But the cards that we do have, that really helps the benefit. I mean, like I said, it's one I might remove actually, for some additional draw power actually, because that is something that this deck is missing. But this is kind of one of those decks where it's just like win early or don't win at all. Big score, give us some treasure tokens, give us some draw power. Boros Charm, we're going to need some way to protect lightning. Let's use this, or give it double strike, depending on what we need at the time. Cast Warp for that extra damage. Generous Gift, sorry, not extra damage, extra removal. Generous Gift for that removal. Great Train Heist gives us that additional combat phase that we're going to want. Also gives the creature first strike if we need that at a certain point. But yeah, puts us from 4,096, which will put us up to 8,182. Alright, we're just going to say 8,200. That'll just be an easier number. 8,200, which will put us up to 16,400. Lightning Strike, deal 3 damage. We're doing 16,400 times as much damage. That's 49,200. Path to Exile for some removal. Psychotic Fury, giving Lightning that double strike to do that quadruple damage. Shock. Like I said, sometimes we just need a little bit of damage to finish off our opponent. So let's run a little bit there. Actually, do I not have Lightning Bolt in here? Huh, that's weird. I should put that in here. Stroke of Midnight for that removal. Sword Splash for removal. Draw a possibility for a little bit of draw power. Unexpected Windfall for that little bit of draw power along with some treasure tokens. And then, Wear Tear in order for some removal. As always, we go Druid Lands last. Blasphemous Act here for a board wipe. Bolt Wave for that little bit of extra push of damage that we're going to need. You know, even if we're just dealing the 4 times as much damage with Lightning's double strike, that's still 12 damage to each opponent, which is normally enough to finish off at least one person. Disruptive Decorum to go to all of our opponent's creatures. Huh, I just realized I put this in 2 separate decks now. Check out the playlist to see if you could notice which other deck this was in. Full Throttle for 2 additional combat phases, so we're up to 16,400. I believe I lost count. So this puts us up to 32,800, which will put us up to 65,600, which will put us up to 131,200, which will put us up to 262,200. Yeah, 262,200. And then an additional combat phase after that one, 262.2 times it by 2 gives us up to 524.4, gives us up to 1 million something. Over 1 million damage just by dealing 1 damage. Promise of Loyalty makes it so our opponent's stuff will attack each other and not us. You know, we don't want to be attacked. Double Strike on target creature you control. Could be Double Strike on all creatures you control, but also could go to all those creatures that our opponents control with Double Strike, making so that they're dealing millions of damage to each other. Oop, don't know what happened there. And then final card is just goads all creatures our opponents control with Taunt of the Rampart. But that's the deck there. Make sure you leave your full count of how you'd like to run this deck, or if you did the full calculations along with the video of how you'd like to deal millions of damage to your opponent, leave it down there in the comment section. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you stay tuned for the next one. Yeah, have a good day.